Okay, folks, we'll call to order the Community Development, Housing, and General Government Committee for December, our last of the year. I'll ask the council members if they have anything on the consent agenda they'd like to pull.
Move for approval of the consent agenda.
Can I pull C1 just for a quick question to staff?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Move for approval of the balance of the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. C1, yes.
Item C1, consideration of an interlocal agreement with Forsyth County to create a joint public art commission.
And this really doesn't have anything to do with what you're probably getting ready to
Okay.
to tell us, but I've had several requests from people in the community to find out timing on this. When will we actually be appointing people to this? Are we 3 months away, 6 months away, a year away?
Well, we have to get through and have this adopted by the city and the county. Right now, the county is scheduled to hear it January 7th, I believe. 11th, sorry, January 11th. And not long after that, we'll be getting the materials ready for applications. And then that'll go through both elected bodies.
Spring? Okay, great. That's it, that answers. Thank you.
Okay. And people make application to be on the committee. It's not council members who recommend them.
Mm-hmm.
People apply to city
We
council
would have so many.
to be appointed.
All right, thank you.
Thanks so much.
If there's nothing else, do you
Move
want-
for approval?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Go to the general agenda.
Item G1, resolution approving program guidelines for the Housing Rehabilitation Loan Review Committee, the Housing Rehabilitation and Purchase Rehabilitation Housing Programs, and the Small Business Loan Economic Development Program.
Mr. Brooks is going to try to straighten this out for me. I had to keep going back to see which committee I was talking about or reading about.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The item before you, it has several components to it. The first is the Rehabilitation Loan Review Committee, and there has been a loan committee for over the past 30 years, operating generally under the guidelines that we've outlined for you today, except for a difference in the amount of work, the amount of assistance that they can approve, which has changed over the years. Whenever there has been a question about the authority of the committee, we would always refer back to the CARF, which created it. Unfortunately, we've never been able to find one. So, instead of continuing on with the pass-me-down process, well, we always did it this way, this is the way it's been done, we developed some guidelines for the committee that we wanted to bring to you all for your review so that the committee could, going forward, have a approved set of guidelines that you all have reviewed and approved, which is essentially what they are doing now and have been doing over the past 30 years, the same makeup in terms of membership. And as I had mentioned earlier, the difference is the amount of funding for loans that they have been able to approve. So I'll be prepared to answer any questions. And Mr. Page is a longtime member of the committee, and Mr. Rao, he's been a member of the committee, so they are here and can respond to any questions also. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
So that means that anything we got or think we need is the correct or whatever, we just blame Mr. Page and Mr. Rao. Got that? He threw you under the bus. Anyway, I'm glad staff is working on this, and that's what we wanted, because some of us have read some of the policies of these different programs that we have. And you know, you and I and Mr. Page have had that conversation that there is a lot of duplicity and redundancy and overlap and whatever, that you brought us this, but it would have been great if you would have bolded anything that you might have changed or highlighted, read, whatever, that you changed or you saw that needed to be changed. Because reading it, we can't tell. We know we can ask you questions, but it would have helped us to see, you know, what it was and what it is that maybe you changed over the past couple of years. I would like to see, and I know this might not be possible, is it possible that we have a skeleton of all of these programs? There's got to be, because we're talking about assisting low income, helping people in the community have a better quality of life through housing, whatever it is in the neighborhood. Is there basic structure? From what I'm reading, it looks like it, structure that you use in each one of them, and then you highlight what makes it different. Am I right on that?
For the most part, you're
For the most part. It would help us, I think, if we saw it, that we saw, like you do with community development, the economic side, we saw the basic structure of what we're trying to do that overlaps into all of the programs. And then show us what is the difference, give us some basic, what makes this program different from this program, different from this program, so I can see them, you know what I mean, all across the board. And so I'll be asking the chair and the committee to, I noticed there's information, correct?
No.
No.
The particular item that we're discussing right now is the guidelines for the loan committee that reviews the loan and approves the loan. I think you have skipped ahead and gone to the actual loan programs themselves.
But did we change anything, or did your committee change anything from what you've been operating under, let's say, previously, last month, last year,
For the committee,
in this document that we have now? No changes?
no changes.
Okay, so we're just reviewing it to establish policy. per
That's
se.
correct.
Okay, well, even that, Madam Chair, I would hope then still that the program part of it, that we send it back to the committee to let them put it in a structure or format that we can easily digest.
And perhaps, just
Thank
as a suggestion on that, that you do have these charts, and, you know, they're full of information, but they're very good, so to differentiate between the different loan programs.
So we could run them
Yeah, I
side
think-
by side so you can see what each one is.
So that would be good. Now, I'm particularly interested in your, the new program for, wait, is that
The urgent repair.
the urgent repair? Yeah.
Yes, I'm a little excited about that myself.
Yeah. Tell us.
The urgent repair program would be a new program that's designed to address problems that present an immediate threat to the occupant's continued occupancy of the property. So it's not designed to go in and take care of everything in the house. But you may have a person, in the wintertime, it may be only heat. It could be freezing pipes where it's water's burst, could be a roof. So only those items that present an imminent danger that would cause that family to otherwise have to immediately move out. Address that, arrest that problem, take care of it. Proposing that we provide up to $15,000, and we have the criteria here. It would be for elderly, 62 years and older, handicap. I think we describe a household where there's a single parent household or a household with a large family, 5 or more children. And of course, you have that immediate need. It's a quick processing program. Currently, it takes us, on average, 90 to 120 days to process an application because of having to obtain the credit report, the verifications, and just to go through that whole vetting process. And currently, if there are any problems, you have to work them out. In this particular program, what we're concerned about is that you own the property, so we verify ownership, we verify that you're not in bankruptcy, and that you generally don't have any dark clouds against your property, meaning very dark clouds against the property. So it's a program that we can go in, make a quick assessment on ownership, determine creditworthiness, and then dealing with the scope of work, still putting it out for estimates, but not going through a general contractor, because currently in our programs, we have to use a general contractor because most of the work is over $30,000. In this particular program, the work would be under $30,000, so it opens up a new contractor base for us to use. As a matter of fact, you may be working with a lot of subcontractors. If it's a heat, then you can call 2 or 3 reputable heating contractors, get them out in a day or 2. They give you an estimate. You take the lowest responsive estimate, tell them to go to work. Same thing with the roof, same thing with plumbing. So you drastically cut down on the time it takes to arrest that problem and deal with it. Those items that are not trade items, we believe that there is an available contractor pool that we can go to that can do work under $30,000 that don't require you to have a general contractor's license that we can utilize to do this. And also part of that is realizing that there may be this contractor base, establish a mentoring and training program for that group of contractors, because you don't want them to always be at this level. We can also use them in our code enforcement program where we have to board up properties or secure or do some in-rim repair, where the cost of the work is only can't exceed the cost of demolition, which may be $5,000 or $6,000. But do a mentoring program so you work with these contractors to try to advance them to the next stage, so that hopefully sometime in the future they'll be able then to get their general contractor's license and move up to another category. So it's a program that provides immediate work for those types of contractors. Hopefully it will put them on a career track to be able to do higher amounts of work that can increase, of course, their quality of life, and also a way to address some of these immediate problems that we have, and also to help with this backlog of cases that we've amassed over the past couple of years because it just takes so long to process.
How, in that short period of time, are we going to be able to, check on the fact that this household doesn't exceed the 50% of median income and that sort of thing?
They have to bring in the required documentation. So they would have to bring in tax returns or check what do you call them? Check stubs. Appropriate documentation would be checked to verify income and ownership.
Questions for Mr. Brooks? Yeah.
Will we pull credit scores? I mean, you said nothing really, no real dark clouds on.
Well, we would pull credit scores, but in most of our programs, although we pull credit scores, what we're looking for is someone that just hasn't totally neglected their housing obligations. Because generally when you're dealing with low and moderate incomes, there may be some issues that have caused them to have bad credit that doesn't necessarily present that much of a cloud on the property. They've encountered some problems that could be for a temporary period of time, or just financial problems.
So there are other data points that could outweigh
Absolutely.
creditworthiness. Let me ask you about this. On these loans, we hold the paper? I mean, we are the
Yes.
mortgagee?
Yes.
Okay. And what happens to that income when it comes back in? What percentage of it do we expect to get?
Well, in this particular program, we're asking for it to be a 3-year deferred forgivable loan. So, after 3 years, we would inspect the property for 3 years to make sure it's being maintained satisfactorily. After 3 years, as long as they've maintained the property, whatever other requirements we have, that particular loan would be forgiven.
So there's no requirement on keeping the house, owning the house for any period of time after
Oh,
3
yeah,
years?
yeah. You got to maintain ownership.
For how long? Is it 5 years?
3.
3 years. So after 3 years, you could sell the house.
You could sell the house, but keep in mind now, we're not going in to totally fix the house. So, you may have a problem with your heat and you can fix the heat, but there still may be some other issues that would prohibit you from putting that house on the market and going out and getting a quick sale.
Yeah, and how do the workers, people who are doing the work on the furnace, ignore the fact that the floors was falling in or whatever?
Well, any work that's associated with that particular item would have to be repaired. So if you're in a furnace room and the floor is bad, obviously you got to fix the floor and put the furnace in.
But totally separate code.
Totally separate. Now, if there's additional work that can be done that's within that $15,000 cap, because we're looking at this as a one-time, lifetime $15,000. So you can have other repairs, but the total amount of assistance itself could not exceed $15,000. So conceivably, you might be able to do a roof, heat, repair some electrical problems. Those major components that, as I said, would otherwise cause someone to have to move out.
Mr. Montgomery.
It's on the, and again, I'm trying not to blur G1 and G2, but particularly what's attached to G1 has guidelines associated with the programs that are there. And then when we look at G2 on that one in terms of any of the program guidelines or the program pieces are going to shift on that, because at least if that's what comes to council, I know there's some questions that I have on a couple of those, if those are the guidelines that are going to be maintained for the programs.
G2 primarily addresses the economic development program, small business loan, and the NRSA building rehab program. That's what's in G2. However, the small business loan program is a part of G1. So it's in there for your review, the small business. So in G1, you have the guidelines for the loan committee, the guidelines for the purchase rehab program, and the guidelines for the small business loan program.
Right. And so to that end, a couple of questions that I had in reference to some of the guidelines that exist in those programs associated actually to the question of Councilman McIntosh around creditworthiness was one of the questions I had, and it was less about other measures we can use outside of the credit, the straight credit scoring process, because understanding that even for the small business loan program, that it's not this isn't the first option for you in terms of when you're looking at one of the small business loans. Is that's after you have to be rejected from, you have to be turned down.
It has to be a gap or a rejection from a primary lender.
Right, and so either a gap or a rejection from a primary lender. And so if a credit score may be a reason why a person is rejected from a primary lender because of the credit score they have, but they have the capital for a program or the portion that they need for it, great business plan and those options that they have there in terms of making sure that that opportunity is a real opportunity for them to access it, and that's not a barrier for them to access it. Because one of the things in terms of how we incentivize that opportunity to happen, and in particular, if you're looking at entrepreneurship in some areas and communities that need it the most, that's probably going to be an area of challenge. And so my question is how comfortable do you feel with the current guidelines around credit, and has that been an area that has turned away, in essence, individuals because of just the credit worthiness component of the small business loan program and the housing portions of it, just both of those in terms of where credit plays a part?
Councilmember Montgomery, in terms of the Small Business Loan Committee, while that credit score is one of the factors considered by the committee, just going from recent memory, several loans have been approved where credit scores may even be considered poor because the committee felt outweighed by how solid the business plan was, the concept would work, that they had institutional knowledge of executing that type business. So while the Small Business Loan Committee does consider the credit score, I cannot think of an instance where a low credit score was the sole reason for declining a loan. It may be poor credit score coupled with a poor business plan within an industry that the borrower has no experience in.
Okay.
With respect to housing, a poor credit score would not be the sole factor in determining whether a loan is approved or not, because what we've seen over the years is that there are many reasons that you can have a credit score that's not necessarily considered the best. So what we try to do is look at the reasons why that credit is the way it is. There have been instances where we have seen where we need to counsel folks on the front end and can suggest things that they need to do to improve their credit, and we do that and have done that many times. But generally, a poor credit score would not be the sole factor in rejection.
Because I saw one component, and I lost my tab there, but it said that individuals will be considered if they have a late payment up to 30 days. And so that made me wonder in terms of, so if there was anything beyond that, how was the time considered, and not understand whether or not that was a hard restriction in terms of that 30-day late that was actually written into the policy there.
For housing, it's not a hard, fast rule, because there again, it could be extenuating circumstances behind that.
Okay. And then my other question is around the actual dollar amounts around housing pieces of it. And it may or may not fall in line into the policies that are here, but it would be something from committee-wide I'm interested in understanding. It's something I've talked with Mr. Page and himself about in reference to the understanding from a turn standpoint in terms of conversation I've had with individuals about questioning and understanding their ability, what's their cap of borrowing from the city from a housing standpoint, and really getting a great understanding of where these programs overlap for individuals when it comes to housing, and what is our policy standard in terms of how much you can borrow across programs for a particular property, and how that affects you in one program and the other.
Currently, in all of our programs, with the exception of TURN, second-time assistance is available up to the amount. If the total amount of assistance may be $45,000 and a person has borrowed $20,000, then they're eligible for second-time assistance on the balance of that. But at no time have we exceeded the $45,000 on second or third-time assistance. So you would have that cap. Now with the TURN program, what we started out with was that same concept. Then we modified that to second-time assistance could be available if there were no active loans on the property. So currently in TURN, we had said if you have an active loan with the city now, you currently can't participate in TURN, because it was staff's intent. We thought that TURN would be more of a motivator to get folks who had not previously participated in the program and use that as an encouragement for those folks to participate. We have since, having talked with Mr. Page, considering relaxing that and having you all to take another look at that second-time assistance in the turn program to see how you would like that.
No, because for me, in that sense, it's how do you impact and the cap we have, and then where does any equity potentially come into play? Even if I have a outstanding loan, if I have an outstanding loan, let's say I have a loan with Wells Fargo, but I want to borrow some more money from them, if I have equity in it and I'm in good line, I could probably get the money that I need to do what I wanted to do within the property. But looking at that side of it as well, we also want to make sure we still have an impact on the greater community. So there's a balance that has to.
All of the programs are income driven and equity driven. So you don't want to invest more money into the property than there is equity.
Are there any other questions of Mr. Brooks? If not, what's the pleasure of the committee?
We're gonna hold it, right?
We're going to hold it, but did you say there's a piece that you needed? No, to move forward?
I think we're okay.
Well, we would like
The first part?
the urgent repair program, we would honestly like to get your endorsement of that now.
Okay.
We have individuals that's at the doorstep waiting.
All right.
The chart that you were talking about, I think we can prepare that and provide it for you so that you can see all the programs beside one another and see the similarities in them and what the differences are.
Do you think that can be available Monday or not? Is that burdensome?
Monday would be a challenge.
Okay, all right. Okay, then are you willing to?
Can we separate them?
Yeah,
And vote on
why not
separately?
separate them?
Just vote on the urgent.
The urgent care. I move that we accept the urgent care, urgent repair program.
Yeah.
Question: who will make the decision on the urgent repair?
And make what decision?
Make the decision on approve
Go back.
the urgent repair
Because
in
you
terms
gotta
of
approve
what
that.
committee, what group comes together to do that.
It goes to the Rehabilitation Loan Committee.
Okay, and that's made up of.
Mr. Page, right now it's Mr. Page, Mr. Rao, Lisa Saunders, and city attorney's
Right,
office.
I was saying that because part of the thing was formalizing that, and then we're approving this.
But
Yeah.
I'm going to rescind it because we need to vote on that piece in order to vote on the urgent care piece, urgent repair piece, okay? I'm thinking urgent care, okay? I'm over 60, what do you expect? Anyway, go ahead.
One thing that we could do is authorize the creation of the urgent repair program temporarily under the existing rehabilitation loan review committee guidelines. Under the existing rehabilitation loan review committee.
Right,
If that were
that's what I was going to do.
okay, I'll second.
All right. Again, I move that we accept we approve the existence of the Rehabilitation Loan Committee temporarily and accept the recommendation of the urgent repair.
Is there a second?
No, I'm not on this committee, but
That's okay.
is there a timeline on that? Because for me, on terms of when that will come back, because I would want to understand, when that will come back to a committee to look back at the guidelines again.
We can bring the remainder and the chart back at the next committee meeting.
Okay.
Love it. Okay. Did we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, you're not going to leave, are you? You're going
Is there something else?
to.
The charter fly to G2 as well?
I think so.
G2.
Oh,
I think it probably does.
Is that more or less? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, I apologize. G2 would be the NRSA, the Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy area. We had to pull that because it's not ready for your consideration at this time.
Oh, okay.
We'll bring the
I
chart back from
apologize.
both those.
We'll have that ready next month.
Okay, very good. Well, unless someone has something to dig up. Wow, look, half an hour. That's pretty good work, folks.
That's right.
If there's nothing else, we'll stand adjourned.
Thank you, Madam.